Welcome to You Mother Truckers podcast, your weekly pit stop for wild tales. You sent us into incredibly imaginative flash fiction stories this week, and we're diving straight into the heart of them. Think of us as your guides through these compact yet surprisingly deep narratives.
That's right. The first flash fiction story, Dragon's Inferno, it plunges us into this city ruled by, well, dragon lords. And our main character, Flicker, she's a thief existing in the shadows. It's a stark contrast to the shimmering power of these dragons.
Yeah, definitely.
What we're particularly interested in exploring with you is that moment Flicker's motivation shifts. She goes from just, scavenging to survive to what the story calls a desperate echoing hunger, right, when she sees the Heartstone. What do you make of that initial setup, that contrast?
It immediately sets up a classic underdog thing, doesn't it? This feeling of being powerless against this massive force. Flicker living in the shadows, it's not just her job. It feels like a metaphor for her having no real agency in this world. So when the Heartstone appears, this relic that held the essence of a dragon, power beyond imagining, it's not just treasure. It's like a potential way out, a bit of hope in her shadowed life.
Absolutely. And what's compelling is that her first urge isn't for gold or anything, but for light. She wants to escape that shadowy existence, that's symbolism. I mean, it speaks volumes, right? This hunger for light, it's about a deep longing for something more than just getting by.
Mm-hmm.
Then the act of stealing the stone from Silas, it's called a brutal dance. What does that imagery suggest to you about how desperate she is?
The brutal dance, yeah, that really hits home the risk and the violence in what she's doing. It's not some slick heist. It's raw, almost primal. It shows how far she'll go, how desperate she is.
Exactly.
And the immediate effect of the stone, it answered the darkness in me, a thrumming echo building towards a crescendo. It's almost like the stone is completing something inside her.
Precisely. It's not just an outside force working on her. It's resonating with something already there, amplifying it. Which then leads to the ritual, right? To unleash the power using forbidden knowledge and her own blood. That's a big step up, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. The blood ritual, it really raises the stakes. It implies this deep personal cost, merging her own, essence with the stone's power. It's not just theft anymore. It's a fundamental change, binding herself to this huge power. And the result is intense. The shadow that clung to me stretched, a monstrous, coiling beast no longer bound by moonlight. That's a powerful image, her inner darkness becoming real. And then Silas dies immediately, a stark reminder that this power is lethal.
Indeed, the power doesn't really care who it hits first, does it? And it engulfs the whole city, making even the dragon's fire useless. That really shows the scale of her transformation.
Yeah.
The Heartstone itself is described as pulsing with exhilaration, like it's alive, enjoying the chaos and absorbing the dragon's power. What does that detail the stone seem as almost sentient add for you?
It makes the Heartstone feel less like just an object and more like a catalyst, almost another character. It's not just giving power, it seems to have its own drive, feeding on the old power structure. That moment where even the dragons are helpless, that feels like the real turning point. The old order just crumbles.
Right.
But even with all this power, Flicker sees a flicker of defiance in the faces below. It reflects her own past. How do you think seeing that affects her next choices?
That's such a crucial moment of recognition for her. Even wielding this huge power, she sees that same spark of resistance in others, the spark she started with. It reminds her where she came from, that she wasn't after domination, just escape from being oppressed. The story really emphasizes that. She never wanted to rule, just get out. But now she's become the ultimate shadow, a monstrous parody of what she wanted. The city turning into inky blackness really drives home that tragic irony. What do you figure is going through her head then?
It must be this awful realization, right, that she's become the very thing she hated. The power she wanted twisted her into this dark figure, just like the dragon lords she resented. It sets up her big choice. She could crush the dragons, rule the dark city.
Yeah, she has that choice.
But instead, she reaches past all that stolen power to her own original flicker.
Tell us about that internal fight and then releasing the power.
It shows her rejecting that corrupting influence, that absolute power, and trying to get back to her core self. The release is described as painful, suggesting it's a really hard, conscious decision to let go of what she fought so hard for. And the dragons, they react with newfound wariness, not gratitude, but they recognize the power dynamic has shifted again.
Interesting.
The ending stresses the city will be forever changed, with change coming messy and unpredictable, born from a desperate act. What's your final thought on Flicker's story in that line? Sometimes a single flicker of defiance can ignite a revolution. It's a potent reminder, isn't it, that even in the worst situations, individual acts of courage, driven by wanting something better, can change everything. It's not always about sheer force. Sometimes it's that inner spark that sets things off. Okay, let's shift gears now. Journey to the very different icy world of Icebound. This one opens with such a strong, unsettling image. The permafrost groaning its retreat. What kind of mood does that create?
It instantly sets this feeling of a world falling apart, unstable at its very foundations. Melting permafrost isn't just climate change, it's their whole reality unraveling. And out of this thaw comes this ancient virus, described as hungry. Personifying it like that makes it immediately sound dangerous, predatory.
Yeah, hungry is ominous.
And our protagonist here, like Flicker, is a scavenger, finding luck in the middle of this disaster. What's your take on that? Luck amidst total collapse.
The luck feels really darkly ironic, you know. It highlights how survival in a crisis can be opportunistic. Someone's disaster is another's gain. But it also just emphasizes how huge the disaster is. This luck only exists because things are so bad.
True. Then we get the awakening. Sounds almost spiritual, but it's terrifying. Starts with fevers, heightened senses, then these bizarre changes. Sarah gets butterfly wings. Ben can manipulate concrete. What's striking is how random it all is. The story says, some powers were gifts, others twisted mockeries. Why do you think the narrative makes these changes so uncontrolled?
The randomness really amps up the chaos, the loss of control. It shows how indifferent nature can be, the unpredictable results of digging up something ancient. It also stops any clear power hierarchy forming because the abilities are so varied and often, frankly, useless for survival.
Right. Butterfly wings aren't much help.
Exactly. And the remnants of government try to step in, control, and weaponize these people, but they totally miss the point. The story says, in this new world, we were all predators, all prey. What does that grim assessment tell us about the new way society works, or doesn't work? It paints a picture of total breakdown, yeah? The lines between hunter and hunted just vanish. Old authorities mean nothing when everyone's potentially dangerous, just driven by the need to survive. The sad fates of Sarah and Ben, despite their powers, show this brutally. Her wings don't stop bullets, his earth powers don't save him from some unseen horror. It really hits home how unforgiving this world is.
They really do. Survival becomes everything, this brutal calculus of finding food, water, safety. The protagonist meets others, the gifted and the broken, all linked by this shared, often awful transformation. Then comes the discovery in the museum, looking at relics of the past, specifically the Ice Age megafauna exhibit. This sparks a chilling thought. The virus isn't creating something new, it's bringing them out of us, echoing the primal struggle for survival. What do you make of that link between the ancient past and this crisis?
It's deeply unsettling, that idea. It suggests these powers, this monstrous stuff, was always inside us, dormant in our DNA, and the melting ice just unlocked it. The fever dreams of giant animals suddenly seem less random, more like echoes of this primal inheritance we all carry.
The story then shifts away from any idea of heroic resistance. It's all about individual and small group survival, just hard choices and harder fights. The landscape itself flips, cities become boneyards, the wilderness becomes a kind of sanctuary. What does that reversal signify? Wilderness being safer than the city?
It signifies a total shift in what safety even means. Human civilization, meant to protect, is now a death trap. The wilderness, the more primal state, offers a chance, but only if you can adapt to its harshness. The ending talks about a brutal rebirth, humanity forced to adapt or die, facing this Ice Age inheritance. The final line. The virus wasn't the end, but a violent new beginning. What lasting feeling does that leave you with?
It's a stark, kind of terrifying vision, isn't it? Suggests that even after a cataclysm, humanity doesn't just end, it just takes a new, possibly way more brutal path. The virus isn't extinction, it's a catalyst for some radical, unpredictable evolution. So in Step Stop, you've journeyed through two very different but thematically linked flash fiction stories.
Yeah, definitely linked. In Dragon's Inferno, you saw how that desperate longing for something more could unleash huge power, force a confrontation with authority, and it all came down to that choice. Dominate or go back to your core self. That idea of one act of defiance sparking revolution. It's something to chew on.
And Icebound dropped us in a world where environmental collapse triggered an ancient threat, not from outside, but from within. It makes you think how fast the familiar can just dissolve, and how survival might mean embracing monstrous parts of ourselves, leading to this primal fight in a totally redefined world.
What stood out most for you in these In Dragon's Inferno, was it Flicker's initial wish for light or her final choice to let the power go? In Icebound, the sheer randomness of the changes, or that chilling link to a prehistoric past waking up inside people?
Hmm, tough call. Both stories really push worlds to their extremes.
They certainly do. We hope this pit stop has sparked some intriguing thoughts for you. Rate and follow you, Mother Truckers, for more captivating mysteries from the world of flash fiction.